Hey, what is going on, you guys? We are here for lesson 3 of our flipped classroom lessons, and we are gonna keep rolling with the American dream here. Kind of a lot to do today, so I'm gonna go over it as quickly as possible, but still as efficiently as possible. So we're gonna do a check-in form. I'm just gonna see how you guys are doing with the online flipped classroom setup so far. Then we're gonna go into journaling, and you're gonna have basically today, do the check-in form, the journal, writing prompt, and then you're gonna get started on an American Dream versions assignment, okay? So let's jump right into it, not waste any time, all right? So check-in form, it's on Google Classroom. All it's gonna ask is 5 simple questions, all right? Nothing too overwhelming, just how are you doing with the flipped classroom? Is there anything I can be doing more for you? Your answers are gonna help me in regards to how our class changes and looks going forward. So if there's something you really like, you can give me feedback and say, keep doing this. If there's something you're like, I'm not doing well with this, just let me know, okay? And we can work on that. It's worth 5 points, basically just participation. Just try and get at least a sentence down for each of the 3 questions that are asked on there, okay? So that'll be right on Google Classroom. Shout out to Sawyer from Lost here, if anyone's seen Lost. Okay, moving on. That was your first item. This is your first item of agenda, okay? Got to do that. It's worth 5 points. Right after it, we're jumping into journal. So I'm a big believer in journaling. I think it's super important psychologically, therapeutically, creatively. I think it helps us grow as writers in so many different ways. So we are going to be journaling in this class almost weekly. If you were in my class last year, you know that I like to do this. It really never gets old because life is always changing. You always have different stuff on your mind and you need an outlet for it. And that's what this is going to do for us, okay? So most weeks I'll prompt you to put in an entry in your journal, which you'll find on Google Classroom. Now, a journal doesn't have to necessarily be like a diary type journal, although it totally can. I'd say like a third to a half of my students last year were basically just writing a diary. They were like, hey, this happened this week, or this happened to me today, or something that's been going on for the last year in my life, or, oh, I've got a thought about this. That's more of a journal diary. You can totally do that. And when I say journal, it's going to encompass all these things. You don't necessarily have to do that. If you want to write a poem or a short story, or if you're into writing music lyrics, or you just feel like you need to go on a rant all that day and write in all caps, go for it, okay? If you like writing scripts, that's cool too. And if none of that works for you and you can't think of anything, I also will have a link that has a bunch of creating writing prompts. So there will be a link embedded into your journal that you can click on. It has all these cool writing prompts, all right? And I'll keep adding to that list all year so they stay fresh. Biggest criteria for doing these journals is gonna be length, all right? I'm looking for at least like 5 lines of writing. If you can get like me 5 lines of writing, that's good. If you find yourself writing 1 or 2 sentences, you're probably not going to get a very good grade, okay? So just write as much as you possibly can. Seriously, it's a time to be creative, to just let loose. You don't have to write in a CER template or anything. This is just time for you to just let out whatever is on your mind. These really should be fun, and they're fun for me to read. I mean, they don't have to be fun for me to read, but they should be engaging. They're also all confidential, so it's all going to be just between me and you guys. No one else is ever going to see this, okay? Each one is worth 5 points. Every 4 we do, I'll grade them, and so it'll be worth 20 points, and you'll get it back. So when you do this first journal, don't hit turn in at the top. And once we're done with 4, I'll prompt you guys to hit that turn in button, okay? You've done your check-in form. Now you need to do your journal entry, all right? It should take you about, I would say, 5 to 10 minutes. If you write a lot, you'll probably get extra credit. If you do something really creative, you'll probably get extra credit. I love giving away extra credit. Okay, let's move on here to the writing prompt for the day. So this gets more into our content about the American Dream, okay? The last writing prompt we had, I asked you guys, who is more successful, Will or the college student? A lot of you guys, a lot of good responses on that. Now we're gonna scratch the surface a little bit more, get a little bit more personal here, okay? What does success look like in your life? This is gonna be your writing prompt, okay? Is it sports? Is it grades? Is it how good you are at music or art? Work, your income, right? Survival, so many things. Self-indulgence. So you're gonna tell me, what does success look like in your life and why? So you're gonna You're going to tell me what success looks like. You're going to go into detail about that. And then you're going to tell me why. Why is that thing you chose, why does that emulate success in your life? Okay, for something like this, we are looking for claim, evidence, and reasoning, even though it's opinionated, right? So I might say, to me, success in my life is getting to master's rank on Overwatch. And let me tell you what master's rank is. Basically, there's 7 tiers. Master's rank puts you in the top 2 to 3% of Overwatch players in the world. If I reach that, it means I'm really, really good at the game and I've accomplished something. It means I'm only, maybe 1,000 players away from being professional. Why is this important to me? Why does this emulate success to me? Well, it's something I enjoy doing. It's something me and my friends value. And so I like to take it seriously and do my best at it. And if I feel like I'm achieving that and getting better at it, then I just feel like that is success for me. That's just an example answer, okay? That would not be my actual answer. Although if your actual answer is doing really good at video games, there's nothing wrong with that at all, okay? So you're going to do this writing prompt. And again, writing prompts should take you about 5 to 10 minutes as well. So the check-in should take you about 5 minutes. The journal, 5 to 10 minutes. Writing prompt, 5 to 10 minutes. So far, you're looking at you've done about 30 minutes of work, okay? And this brings us to the very last thing, okay? And I promise you this idea of success is going to tie in here and going forward for the rest of the American dream. Okay, we're going to get into the 8 different versions of the American dream, all right? There are technically, there's a lot of different versions, but these are the 8 core versions. And they're all these promises, okay? These promises of the American dream. It doesn't mean that these promises are necessarily gonna happen or gonna come true, even if you commit to one of them. But I'll briefly go over each of them real quick. All right, so we have the promise of change, and these are all American dream promises, okay? The promise of change, that's that at any point in your given life, you can change what you are doing. And if you can make that change, your life is going to get better, okay? That's the promise of change. These are all just quick snippets of these. You guys are going to go into more depth on these. Okay, and then we have the promise of moving up. And this is the idea that you can move up socially, financially in America. If you just, like that opportunity is there. There's so much opportunity. And to be honest, that one's, and even though a lot of these promises are kind of glass half empty, half full type things, if you live in America, we have the highest percentage of people who change socioeconomic classes in the world. So if you start in the lower class here, you have a higher chance than anywhere else in the world of moving up to middle class. Alternatively, if you're in the middle class, you have the highest chance to move up to lower class, or from middle class to high class, or high class to low class. We have a lot of class flexibility in the US. Just a little fun note there. Number 3, promise of hard work. This is the promise that if you work hard, if you put your nose to the grindstone, if you, lace up your boots and don't make excuses and you just work hard, that you can achieve whatever you want in this country. Okay, and remember what I said, whatever you want, to me, that's whatever realistically, but in this promise of the American dream, they're pretty much saying if you work the hardest at all hours of the day, you can get to wherever you want to get to. Okay, 4, this is a really big one, okay, and this is going to kind of tie into moving up into hard work, into the good life, but it rests on its own because it is such a fixating thing in people's minds. So number 4 is the promise of home ownership, that within this beautiful country, if you can own your own home, then you basically are living the American dream. You can do whatever you want. You have your own house. Anything you do in that house, as long as you're paying the bills, right, you can do. And to a lot of people, that is their version of the American dream. That's when they've reached success. Some people work 0 days of their life, and they have the finances to buy a home from, family wealth. Some people work 40 to 50 years until they own a home. Or you're like me, and you're a first-time home buyer, and you've lived in a house for a year, and you still owe hundreds of thousands of dollars on the house. So it's like, you own the house, but you sort of don't. The bank owns you and the house. I'll just cry myself to sleep later. These next two have really been hot-button issues in the U.S. as of late, right? So, promise of freedom, that everyone here has freedom, which is generally true. It really is. It's generally true. However, it is not absolute freedom. Okay, so here comes that half glass full, half glass empty kind of promise. We have more freedom in the United States than any other country in the world. That's just a straight up fact, okay? However, we don't have absolute freedom. We have laws. We have rules, right? We have mandates, if we were that free, we wouldn't be told to we could walk down the street without wearing a mask, or into a building without wearing a mask right now during Corona, if we were absolutely free. If you were absolutely free, you could, you could kill someone, or you could steal, and you would have the freedom to do that without consequences. Okay, quote unquote. But so our freedom is great, but we have rules and laws in place to keep our society and our civilization civil and progressive. Okay, moving on to equality. This is probably the biggest one. Equality is probably the most prevalent one right now, with all the, BLM riots, the Antifa riots, all that sort of stuff that's been going on right now. So it's the idea that, everyone in this country is equal, and that everyone should be treated as equals, is basically what that promise is. The U.S. has come so far, and I think we are right there. We really are. I think 99% of people treat each other as equals all the time, but there are, it's never going to be an absolute utopia. There's always going to be people out there that have, biases and, for whatever reason, whether it's because of gender, race, and we'll get into this more in depth as we go into the American dream and throughout the year, but there's always going to be a few people out there that really don't represent mass America. And we'll get into this soon. I'm sure some of you guys are rolling your eyes thinking, oh my gosh, but Mr. Dietz, I thought the United States was completely racist. Well, that's what the media really wants you to think, right? They're really pushing that agenda. The media wants negativity. They want people to clash. So that's why that's being pushed so heavily. And this is just a rule I live by for myself, and we'll get into this more as we go on. I don't watch too much news, okay? I see enough of it to know it's pretty much all negative, like 99% of it. But I like to measure up when I see anything in the news or on social media against my personal life, right? So I think you see people out there that are saying, we're living in the most racist country and it's so racially charged and all that stuff, but I want you guys to think about how many actual racists do you know personally, right? In your actual life. Is your family racist? Are your close friends racist? Are your teachers racist, right? I want you guys to think about this and be like, there's not that, I actually don't know that many racists. Why does it seem like why is the media pushing this idea of racism so heavily when I can't even identify, I couldn't count the amount of racists I know on my hands. I don't know any, but so that's just something to think about. We'll get more into that later on. Number 7, the promise of gambling. This is there's a lot that goes into this one, but it's basically the idea. It's actually really interesting because gambling started to become legalized even in Colorado. Colorado's a very progressive state as far as, legalizing things as far as like gay marriage and marijuana legalization, gambling legalization. So this is the idea that at any point you could risk something and gain something of equal, lesser, or greater value. So say you wanted to go down to the gas station to buy a lotto ticket. You are gambling $5 on a Powerball, and you're saying, I've got a 0.0001% chance of hitting this, but if it hits, I make $300 million and I'm set for life, okay? And for so many people, they actually just get caught into a gambling addictions. When we look at this, right, and I might say in the gambling version, that a lot of people, when they're going after their American dream, they tend to pick just a couple of these, right? And so that's why you see some people become gambling addicts, because they're putting all their eggs, all their finances into this basket. Or maybe they're putting some of it into that basket. And so they're like, I'm gonna put about 33% of my whatever I make into gambling, because that just might shoot me up one day, and it'll make me, and some of them are interchangeable, right? It'll make me skip doing the hard work, but I'll move up, and I'll get the good life and home ownership. But the chances of it happening are super low, right? So all these kind of intermingle in really interesting ways. Lastly, the good life. Okay, this is going to be, last promise is the good life. This is what's going to be portrayed in a lot of music videos, television, film, right? And this is the top 1%. Whether it's athletes or actors or musicians or tycoon or business moguls, right? Or, just rich people. These are the people living in mansions, driving nice cars, going to nice parties all the time, throwing money up in the air, popping champagne. That's the good life. Kanye West actually has a song called The Good Life. He talks a little bit about this promise in it, but he touches on it in a lot of his other songs. And he actually says, like, hey, this whole the good life thing is a huge scam. And he says we as like a black community shouldn't be duped into this version of the American dream, because we're spending all of our money trying to be like these people that hold values that aren't really good, but we see them on TV and we want to be like them, and that goes into mimetic desire and all this crazy stuff. We can talk about that more if you guys want to. Anyways, that's me just touching on each version of the American dream. Here's what you're going to do with all this information, okay? You're either going to work alone or in a group of up to 3 people in your class. You guys are going to choose one of these 8 versions. So talk collectively and think which one of these interests us, all right? And I will post this document for you guys. And it has all these promises that I kind of touched on, but in a nice paragraph. All right, so you'll pick one. What do we want to do? Promise of change, moving up, ownership, whatever. You're going to pick one by yourself or with your group. And what you're going to end up doing is you're going to create a Jamboard. A Google Jamboard, all right? And I'll have instructions in the Google Classroom for you guys to do this, all right? Your Jamboard should have your interpretation of the version you selected. It should not simply be copy-pasted quotes. So you shouldn't just be like, oh, this sentence sounds good. I'm gonna paste it in there, all right? You're really breaking it down to its core, and you're gonna put that information on the Jamboard. You're also going to put down your own thoughts and ideas about it a little bit, okay? Do you agree with this version more so than you disagree with it? Do you think it's plausible, or do you think it's all BS, all right? Ultimately, you're going to save it as an image, and then you're going to upload it to our American Dream versions assignment on Google Classroom, all right? And I'll show you guys what one should look like, okay? And I'll do like a little bit of an example here. Let me get my face out of here. So we have the promise of change, and this is kind of the summary in my mind of what the promise of change is. So things can be different, but is different always good? This is kind of what both Obama and Trump basically ran their campaigns on. Both of them were change. Obama kind of made it famous, a really ingenious political campaign message. So often, and this goes for all politicians, but so often when he was running for office, he wasn't pitching anything in particular. He was running on socialized healthcare, but over and over again, he just kept reiterating change, because people think that change is inherently good. Now, that's not necessarily true, but we've been programmed and sort of trained to hear change as a good word, as a powerful word. And so a lot of people clung on to that idea of, well, I don't know what's going on in my life, but I want change. I like change. Change is good, right? I mean, maybe not. It's always good to think about. We can do anything together. That anything could be anything. So kind of going back to the change thing, right? So yeah, we can do anything together, but it should be important that anything is defined and described and people understand what they're doing, because this leads to revolutions and scary things that maybe aren't entirely thought out from beginning to end. Just look at Chaz. Anyways, this is just an example. I've got some more stuff on here about the promise of change. I put in some picture with like a revolution, and then a picture of Dwight Schrute, quoting Benito Mussolini, "Blood alone moves the wheels of history," right? Communist movements and regimes are built on passion and, getting everybody riled up and saying, hey, we got to change something, even though, maybe it's not all thought through. But there we go. That's your example. This is kind of what your board should look like. And remember to put your name and your group and partners' names, okay? I know this was kind of long, and there's a lot here, but I think you guys can handle it, and I think it's going to be fun starting to get into the American Dream stuff, okay? If you guys have any questions at all, just let me know. Seriously, hit me up. I am happy to help via email, via Microsoft Teams message. I can meet with you guys in a small group or one-on-one. I'm happy to help you guys, okay? And yeah, this is just the beginning, and I hope you guys really enjoy doing this, okay? And have an amazing day, and I hope you enjoy lesson 3.